I'm working on it.
Great, 2 days.
How about a thriller?
Cop lets criminal escape.
I think the idea sucks. We don't have much time.
Today is not your day.
Before we get into dissecting the film, let's go ahead and introduce our panel. We'll start with you, Jen Mitra. You can introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Yamitra Waddell. I've been a member of the Chamber for 3 years now. I am the owner of Be Fearless Incorporated and Waddell Consulting Services, and the author of 7 books, and I'm glad to be here. I enjoyed the film.
Thank you, Jan Mitra. Glendora, if we can get you to introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I am Glendora Devine. I am a licensed professional counselor, board certified in telemental health. And what I've been with the chamber, I started earlier this year before COVID, and glad to be here, honored to be here. It was a great film, so I'm ready to talk about it.
Ms. S.A. Brown, let's hear from you.
Hi, everybody. As she stated, I'm S.A. Brown. I, as you all know, this was my film. So I just joined the chamber, so I am excited about the possibilities and what's going to happen with the different things in the chamber. I run a production company a media company called SAB Entertainment. And underneath we have different entities. And one of those entities is Commit Pictures, which is the vessel I use to produce my films.
So my first question for you is, it seemed like all of the characters, the stories that they're told, had some type of adverse effect for them. Like there wasn't just conflict, but the conflict was that they were kind of getting the bad and the stick. Was that purposeful? Was there an intent in that?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So basically, as much as I looked at it from a hearing voices in your head kind of thing, it was kind of a look at my own writing process. I kind of envision my characters. I have a log for them, and I kind of get to know them. So that's why you said that it seems like they all have different personalities. And that's pretty much because I give them different personalities. And when I write, my first draft is literally me sitting at this very desk talking out the script. I write in the action what I see, and then I talk out between the characters the story. So that's really what the film was about.
And maybe I'm reading into it, but was there a particular intent with the unfavorable circumstance of each character? Like the guy in church, it was his time to tell his story. When he told his story, he cheated on his wife, but then found out that she cheated on him, right? The other guy that started off, he told his story, but he ended up being the guy who's cuffed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who told their story, everybody got a chance to tell their story. Everyone who told the story, they were in the position of unfavorableness. I'm just wondering if there was any particular intent with that from that angle.
Honestly, now that you mention it, no, there wasn't. I was just trying to tell different, like different little stories. But as far as an adverse intent, no, it was just pretty much about creating the conflict. The snippets that she gets would be the beginning of a particular story. So it would just be setting up the conflict. So that's why you had the different things going on. I wanted to make sure I got conflict into each little snippet.
So is it also wrong for me to assume that there was something with her own internal conflict where she has these storylines that are going? She doesn't love the way the storyline is going. Each one, she attempts to change it, and she's getting pushback from the characters. And that happens throughout the film. And at the very end is when she becomes stern enough to say, no, this is the way I want the story to go. I need you all to be on board with that. And it seems that kind of the foreshadowing is that the story is now going to work. She's going to be able to write it. Is that it?
Yes, yes. I wanted, for me, every character has a story to tell. And until I decide which story I'm going to tell, once I decide, the characters kind of fall into place. So like I said, this was really a look at my writing process. And that's pretty much how it goes. I have different characters that I write about, and some characters I create and I push them to the side, and some characters I create and they say, hey, I got a story, let's tell this, and et cetera, et cetera. So it was one of those things where she comes to tell the story because all she's really looking for is an idea. That's all she's looking for. But the characters come to her with their own story. And once they get their story out, she's like, okay, now I got it. I'm going to do this. And they all kind of push back. No, that's not what I said. You know, it's just that internal dialogue that a writer could possibly have with their characters.
And so what would you say in this film, the internal dialogue is saying about the mental health of the character that's writing?
Well, at the end, we say she has a nervous breakdown because she has a lot of characters in her head. If you notice, the doctors and the attendants, the nurse and the doctors, they're her characters because those are the people she's around every day. So it's more of she broke down because all of these characters are in her head and they're all fighting for their story.
Glendora, let's bring you into this. What is your take on the film from the perspective of mental health?
It was really touching on a lot of, I was feeling like it was going into the psychosis part of mental health, with just not being able to silence the stories, the characters, and actually determine like what way you really want it to go with the story. So, and then in the end, when I seen it, she actually did go through a true state of psychosis when she's like talking to herself and writing. And so she's really got somebody there with her. She's, you know, in full reality that, you know, she's there. And I felt like she did have a really mental illness that actually came out. I was kind of wondering, like, just not being able to actually calm her stories, is that what pushed her over? And not really say what she wanted to say or get the idea that she wanted, is that really is hearing all those thoughts. And then I would go in and say like, well, how long that's been going on? How many characters she really got in her head that really is always talking and not really letting her focus. So I was really feeling like it was some stuff going on. I even was feeling like it was the lady that was in the jail that was wanting her to write the book in the short amount of time. It was truly, you know, some psychosis going on right there with her. I think she played that part very well. So I was wondering like what this story was going to be about, what she about to say, but we didn't get to hear it. I was like, oh my God, what's she gonna say? So that was it. So I think it was really touching in the thought, the mental health area. Even the guy that was locked up, I felt like he was in the early stages of going through some depression, and looking at anxiety right now when he was tempting the cop, like, you know, you really want to do this, but you know, the reality is this is your deal. You dealt this. So, you know, so I really feel like it was really hitting on the mental health, truly, of really how we go through our stages of just trying to communicate with other people.
In your clinical experience, have you seen anything like this before, just in general, where it feels normal to people, but for them to be experiencing something like we saw in the film?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And it's really and that's what I was like when she was originally starting off writing, and the people start popping up. You know, I was feeling like, okay, I don't know if she's really seeing what she's doing along with the self-medicating. You know, it just didn't feel like she was setting herself up for success. It was seeming like she was setting herself up to be in a hole and be thinking about a lot at one time. So I have had several clients like that. And like I say, the thing about it is like when the clients don't have family members that actually recognize that or may pacify it. And so that's what was making me think like how long she's been really going through this kind of process and who really been around her that actually could have helped her, you know, not kill that whole bottle of liquor, but get help.
Thank you. So, Yamitra, because you are our Live Past Crazy specialist,
Yes.
what is your take on this? Like, what insight would you give us on maybe not necessarily moving past an issue like that, but getting through it? How does that happen? What does that look like?
First of all, I really enjoyed it. And for me, as the only Live Past Crazy specialist, one of the things I saw that was interesting to me is that the characters were all fighting for the uniqueness of themselves. So as the writer was trying to find, the storyline, each person wanted to, be unique to themselves. Like, this is me and this is who I am. And in the bigger scope of things, it's like all of us, we all are trying to find our unique story. And we wear those words that, everybody's given us. Well, this is my storyline for this person. This is my storyline for that. And so it's like each character was trying to find the uniqueness of themselves. And getting through that is, I like what the lady was sitting down to write the book and she wanted it handwritten, and getting through that is to write it down and to have that as part of your journey to get past all the chaos and the crazy of sometimes our self-imposed crazy, and sometimes it's crazy that other people have given us that we carry.
That's interesting. Will, I want you to jump in because you're a producer. What is your take on this? Like, from like an art perspective of producing, what did you get from this?
Well, with all of these expert opinions, I appreciate the film even more now. I got to go back and not watch it because when I took more of a surface kind of, oh, okay, that was neat, telling stories, all of these different stories in her head. But there's clearly some layers our writer put into it. What I liked about the film is, and I was going to ask, what did they choose to shoot on? I like the way she shot the film. There were certain lens choices that she used to kind of really get this whole perspective to me. And so by the time it got to the end of the film, I'm kind of like, okay, symmetrically, they kind of shot it so we were kind of in the lead character's head, without necessarily physically seeing that. So a couple of different lighting choices I think they chose that helped really, articulate that. I thought that the film was really good. The shorter, dark-skinned guy with the beard, I don't know if you guys remember him from the first Virtual Film Talks. He was in the movie that we did 15 Minutes. That's Spencer Brown, and he played the character Akita that was in 15 Minutes, and that was the guy I reached out to find essay in this film. So I thought the film was good. I would like to see it expanded on. I wouldn't mind seeing this as a an ongoing thing, especially if we can tie it back into mental health.
Okay, let's talk about that, Will.
Most definitely, we will.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, Raquel had a couple of things she wanted to say.
I had a couple of observations. So one of the things that I've learned a long time as a writer is depending on your level of involvement, it's like you're schizophrenic. These characters actually come and sit down in front of you and they're like, tell my story, no, tell my story. And so they start talking to you and you have to figure out how to give them a voice. So I understand being a writer is all about schizophrenia because you literally could be sitting there and you could be like, wait, okay, fine. I know you had a baby on Tuesday. So you do all of these things. So I just wanted to kind of point that out, because what I saw was people that she had passed, experiences that she had been through, and those people coming and showing up and saying, this is how I think you should sway this story. This is how I think you should sway this story. So my question would be, I love the emphasis on self-medication. I'm glad that that was brought up, because a lot of it, it's schizophrenic. We hear a lot of voices, so we try to drown out those voices and focus on the one that's going to bring us money, or the one with the most interesting characteristics. So I want to know how many of these characters represent like some point of like, which characters, any of these characters represent a point of your own personal, like your personality.
My personality?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no. The only one that is, kind of based on me is the screenwriter. I don't self-medicate, but I do live with bipolar disorder and anxiety disorder. So there can be a time when I'm trying to get a story out and I just can't, and I just, so to answer your question, it's probably screenwriter. She's probably the one closest to me. And after screenwriter would be death row inmate, because I want a story written, not recorded, I handwrite all of my first drafts are handwritten. So when I go into rewrites, that's when I start typing. So, death row inmate was kind of like me, like no recorder, no electronics. We're just going to tell this story. So it's probably, those two characters.
One more thing, and Akita, I promise I'm done.
No, go ahead.
I know that writing, speech, and everything that you expose to the general public is irrevocable. Once you say, I are, thou, so shall there beeth, anyone that hears that is responsible for the interpretation of how that impacts them. As a writer, you can sit there and you can know exactly what it means while you're typing it, but the moment someone else reads it, they're going to take their perspective, their life, and they're going to apply what's said to that. So knowing how personal these stories can be, how do you feel about putting your baby out into the world and then leaving it up to interpretation for people to either kind of judge you or maybe even apply what they're going through and it has nothing to do with you? What are your thoughts on that?
I have gotten over the whole judgment part of it. Either you get something from it or you don't. Either you're entertained by it or you're not. I just love creating. So I create stories, and how the person interprets it is on them. But I've done my part. I've put this good story out there. So do with it what you will.
A question. I was just wondering, were you really trying to zone in on a particular disorder in the film with the characters or with the screenwriter?
Schizophrenia.
Okay, that's the one I picked up. So
schizophrenia.
That's the one I picked up when I was looking at it. So.
So Raquel, you said that you're a writer and you can relate to like what was going on in the film as far as the different characters in your head. Would you say that when you're attempting to write that you have that same experience with different characters kind of popping up as you're attempting to get what's in you onto the paper?
I would. When I used to catch mass transportation, I would sit on the train and I would see something. If I saw a woman crying and it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, why are you crying? Where'd you come from? Is it an argument? Is it the wind in your eyes? Like, what happened? And then her story, I could be making it up and applying my own perspective, would start to reveal itself to me. She just had an argument with her boyfriend on the platform and she came on here and she's trying to fix herself. And if I did not try to kind of conceptualize that and write it down, it would have haunted me for the rest of the day. It probably would have evolved and turned into her kids. I would have given her more of a family, more of a background. She's a Sagittarius and it's a Tuesday in May, but that I will say they literally, when I'm in that zone, they haunt me and they want me to tell their perspective and their point of view about certain things.
Glendora, listening to this, like watching the film, and we've heard from Essay, and we've even heard from other people who are watching it, like Raquel, say, yeah, I experienced that. And Linda, who's typing in the chat, Linda has said, yes, you know, I'm a writer, and that's the way I write. I hear voices in my head. These are all very, like, for the most part, accomplished, productive people. Would we say that what their experience is mental health, or is just this, like, this is the norm for a real creative person? Like, creativity creates different characters in the head, or is there something that we should be looking at as far as addressing mental health?
Well, I want to say a lot of mental health people are very creative. So first off, and the reality of it is, you know, like I said, I'm only human. You're supposed to have these thoughts. You're supposed to have these thoughts of people talking to you where you actually are, you know, you're coming up with ideas, you're creating stuff. But the reality of it is, it's not an issue until it starts hindering your life, until you stop functioning. So like the lady can really sit in, the screenwriter could not really sit in there and actually get it done. And then not only could she not get calm the thoughts and get focused and get it done, she also was drinking to try and get herself together and focus. So now we really do have a problem because we got this unwanted noise that's not really helping her. We can't silence it, and she again is self-medicating, and she's alone. So that was my real concern, that when it came on, I'm like, okay, I see the family photos. So she showed us, SA showed us that the lady is connected. She do have family. We had pictures going around and we seen her family photos, but we really just don't know how long alone she is. And that is really like the problem. I remember I had a client, and he was 18, and I went to their house. I used to do in-home therapy, and I went to their home, and you know, I'm talking to him. I'm like, ooh, this ain't right. Something ain't connecting here. And you know, and I'm just listening to him, and I'm like the third therapist that had been in that house. And I'm like, okay, well, I went back again. I'm like, he like, well, yeah, Miss Divine, I want to show you something. I said, well, what you want to show me today? And he literally was showing me where he would dig a hole in the backyard and put the cereal that they had, the cereal boxes, in the hole, and said he was, you know, saving that food for later. And the reality, I had to tell the mom, I said, listen, do you have anybody in your family that have a history of schizophrenia or on his dad's side? And she was like, well, nobody never asked me that before. I said, listen, it skips generation. I think your baby got it. You know, so I think, and the reality was, you know, I started having him go through these testing and see a psychiatrist and all this other stuff. And the reality was he did have it, and he did not need to ever be alone. So it's the reality of, how do you function daily? What are you doing every day that is being hindered by what's going on in your head, or how you feeling? So once we start having issues when we cannot do our normal routine, that's when we got to start looking at it. Is it time to diagnose somebody? Is it time to put them on medication? And the truth is, who are you living with? Who are you around? Because that is a true indication of if you're really going to get some help, or you really might not. So that was just, you know, a major thing that I just immediately picked up. I was like, okay, she got a like frowny face the whole time before it really gets started. So, cause I'm thinking like, okay, was she twitching? What's she twitching for? So I'm paying attention to that. And then here come the people jumping in, and I'm like, oh, then I see the sign of, you know, best procrastinator ever. And so like, just even that, if she was somebody that was suffering from mental health, one of the things that we don't want to do is put signs in front of you that is not going to help you come up out of it, you know? So looking at a sign that say best procrastination ever, it says something like that. that's automatically is going to put you in that mindset to say, you know what, I can try this a little bit later. I'll wait a moment. So it's kind of like, you know, what you're feeding yourself to help yourself stay sick and who you're around too. I think that makes a big deal. So yeah, it's yeah, that's what I had to say, girl.
It's interesting that you pointed that out, that it did show the most procrastinator,
Yeah.
world's best procrastinator as the sign on the desk, which I thought kind of gave insight to her struggle and her really wanting to write this because she didn't want to procrastinate anymore, right?
Yeah, and see, it totally just went straight to my head as, okay, well, this is already some negative thinking that you put in your face every day. This is not helping. None of this, you know.
And so go ahead, essay.
No, I said I'm going to remove that paperweight.
It already had set me into that. I'll say, okay, we're about to go down some to a negative thinking wormhole. So here we go. What's going to happen? You know.
And so Linda in the chat, who's also very much like one of the leaders in film, Linda said she doesn't hear voices. Just to be clear, she writes first before she does the storyline. With that said, like, it seemed like what you were getting at is that hearing voices with full-blown personalities can be great for a writer or a creative if they're able to compartmentalize it, if they're using that for their craft, for creating the story, and that it doesn't roll over into other areas of their life. Is that correct?
As long as it's not a reality, as long as they know that they are actually in character, they are working. Just like when we have these actors, the actors that go in there, they go in there for this particular job. And when you get in there for this job, you consume yourself, you become this person. But just like when you get finished with that job, you need to go and digress, and so you can become who you are and not continue to carry that life of that character. And that's the main part of it. You know, when we're looking at, you know, mental illness, we want to look at a lot of variables that actually go along with what's happening in this person's life. So, you know, we're going, because if you're hearing voices and you're not in this work mode, no, that's a problem, you know, because we're not supposed to be hearing anything. But, you know, you can think of a character, you can say, oh yeah, and then Jack gonna say, I love you. And then, you know, you go along with that, and then, you know, Sarah gonna say, well, I don't love you back. You know, we got Essay and her conflict. Yeah, I don't love you back. And then, you know, we got the screenwriter coming. So it's different when you actually going into, you know, storytelling mode and I'm creating. But if it's just randomly happening, these unwanted thoughts, no, that's a true issue. And just like Raquel was saying, I think everybody look at people and make a story. You know, me and my husband, we actually do that at restaurants and bars and wherever we go out to dinner or whatever. We're like, what do you think that couple is doing? Why do you think they're here? Do you think they're even together? Are they in love or are they just together? You know, we'll come up with our own whole little storyline, you know. So I think that's normal, but the problem, it is a problem if you are hearing things or you're being creative, but this creativity is not allowing you to do your daily functions, you know, if it's stopping you, or if you voluntarily hearing things. No, we don't want that at all. We all gonna go get some help. So we're not doing that one.
And that's
Essay,
right.
Zoe wants to know, like, when is it a story versus a vignette?
When is it the story? Well, when the characters are themselves, that is when it's the story, the actual story. The vignettes are what the characters are saying to her that she's typing. So I hope I'm answering your question. How should I say it? Actually, all of it is happening in her head because you all saw her sitting at her desk. Well, at the end, you knew she was in a mental institution. So she's definitely not sitting at a desk like that. You know, she doesn't have all this stuff on her desk. She doesn't have all those pictures and she's not in an office. She's actually at a mental health institution. So all of that stuff you saw was in her head.
Zoe, if you'd like, you can unmute yourself. I want to know, did that answer your question or do you need further clarification?
No, I'm happy. I'm happy with what everything talks about. I really enjoyed the film. So I've just personally always wondered the difference between a vignette and a story. So like I just really wanted to hear, but I'm really happy with the discussions that are happening.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for SA or Glendora or Yamitra? Anyone that we have on the panel?
Linda has a question. Linda raised her hand.
Go ahead, Linda.
Hello, everybody. And SA, I think it was great. I think you did an awesome job. I'm excited about the whole aura of it. I wanted to know, though, I remember when she acknowledged the one guy, he was, I guess it was the first character, because she said, "You've been here." I think he was the first guy. She said, "So you've been here. You have any ideas?" Why was he first? I mean, I don't know if you go that deep in your storyline. I mean, I do. I actually make my actors. It's interesting when the therapist was talking about, as long as they know that they are Johnny and not Jenny, but I actually will not allow my actors to come on set once they get their character names. They can no longer go by their own names. So I may be making them, although whatever.
Oh,
but
that's fine. It's
because I want them to go behind the character. But I was wondering, why was he first? Was it something deeper?
Because he was the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was wondering whether or not their relationship was deeper. Maybe she had been writing stories around him more. And do you relate to that? Like you have one character that's just like your main one.
To answer question one, he is the newest employee at the mental institution. So that's why he popped up first, because she's wondering about him the most. You know, she doesn't know him, because he hasn't been there for her to see. Everyone else, the two doctors, the nurse, she's used to them. But the first guy who pops up in the red shirt, she doesn't know him. So that's who she's been thinking about the most. So that's why she wrote him out the most. I mean, first.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And tell us about that essay, because when he entered in that burgundy red vibrant shirt, and then you corrected, like, no, let's put you in something like more of a neutral gray kind of blue tone, which is the same color shirts that everyone else came in.
And she does that so she can kind of make them what she wants them to be. So he had on a red shirt that indicates a strong personality. And she's like, no, I'm going to mold you into what I want. So I need you in this gray.
Okay.
So you can become what I want you to become.
And she seemed to still have a struggle with that. Even in gray, they told their own story outside of what she wanted.
Right. And I don't know if you all noticed, she had on different clothes with each vignette. She looked totally different. And that's because the stories were different. And she interjects herself in the story. So she looks different because each story is different.
Do we have any other questions? Dee says there are times an actor engulfs a particular type of character over time and starts taking on the personality. Let's see where her. And starts taking on the personality which may relate to something in reality. Now it's from Dr. D. Anyone else have any questions? You guys can feel free to unmute yourselves and you can ask a question to anyone on the panel, or if you had any insight that you'd like to give about how you feel about the film, or just the conversation that we've had from our specialists, Yamitra and Glendora. This is the opportunity to do that. This is a conversation, and so we want you all to feel a part of what's going on. So feel free to unmute yourselves.
So I remember when Raquel asked her, how do you feel putting your baby out there? You have it a certain way and it's open for other people's interpretation. Because I honestly thought that she was in her office and the voices and the people were popping up. And then she broke down and ended up in the institution. I kind of saw it that way, and then going backwards when they were the doctors, as if she saw them then. But I didn't even think about the fact that she was already in there. I was wondering, did anybody else see it that way?
Anybody?
I didn't think that she was already inside the mental thing. I think I got more clarification in the end when SA started saying, you know what, she was there the whole time. I didn't catch that the doctor and nurse, the two doctors and the nurse was actually her client, was the people that was working at the hospital. I didn't get that. I was trying to figure it out, but I didn't get that. I didn't until she said that made sense. We were in her head the whole time. I see what happened. So,
Yeah, we're in your head the whole time.
Yeah, I see that.
So
I
Zoe has
wanted to
another
add.
question. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to add one thing and see what everybody else thought about the characters. I often say we'd rather deal with the comfort of crazy than the discipline of freedom. And you see the writer being comfortable in her crazy of her characters. Like she's comfortable with them because she's drinking around them, she's hanging out with them. She tells them, you've been here, or, she changes their clothes, and she's giving so much love to these characters. And how often do we find ourselves in dealing with the comfort of our crazy and allowing that to become our everyday, like our everyday life, and it's part of who we are and what we become.
That's interesting.
I like that approach a lot, and I think it is probably systemic programming that causes us to be okay with our crazy. I've read one Facebook post that talked about this woman who always grew up in poverty, and when she got to a point and she was making enough money, she went to buy a high ticket item for herself, and she had a panic attack because she could spend the money, she had it in the bank, she had all her savings together, but because of her mentality, she was not able to. She made the purchase, but it gave her anxiety. So, and maybe I'm revealing some stuff about myself. Forgive me. But the comfort of your crazy, I think some of it also goes along with like some of the things that stop us from moving forward are pain. So if you hurt your foot and then you move it a certain way and it hurts, so you stop, but you could have moved it the entire way because you would have gotten over that little bit of pain. Pain stops us, and sometimes it prevents us from going forward. So I agree with the whole comfort of crazy, but there's so much woke culture right now that, if you're in tune, you are actually receiving, oh my God, the appropriate vibrations. I said it. But yeah, so I don't know. It's just a lot going on sometimes.
That's a great title. Comfort. Say it again. Your comfort of crazy.
I'm so spontaneous.
Comfort of crazy, or some people rather deal with the comfort of crazy than the discipline of freedom, because it's going to take work to get out of that crazy.
Don't be surprised in about a year or so you see a short film or something, and it's called Comfort of Crazy. Don't.
No worries.
So we have another question in the chat. It's from Zoe. She said, if you hear a lot of voices or characters in your head that are based on people you know, how can you begin to convert that energy into brand new characters for a story instead of imaginary conversations with people you know?
Woo. Let me read that again.
Mm-hmm.
Was that for me, Zoe? It's interesting. I'm working on a project based on my friends and me. So how do you begin to convert that energy into brand new characters? I think the answer to that would be creating those new people. Like I said, I have a questionnaire that I ask my characters. And so within that questionnaire, I really get to sit down and get to know them. So it sounds weird, but once I do that questionnaire, that character questionnaire, they're no longer imaginary to me. They are live, breathing animals. I mean, they have become their own person. So, and I hope I'm answering this, well enough. But I just think it's a process of just sitting down and getting to know your characters. I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Raquel who said that she was on the train and she saw this girl. She had just had a fight with her boyfriend. I mean, I do that all the time. I see someone and I go, what kind of morning are they having?
I would just piggyback on that, and I would say literally write it down. That is the way to make sense out of it, to get them to, like S.A. is saying, come to life. And it's a way to quiet your mind so you can go to the next journey of their life, where you want to take it. But
I'm sorry. I've also heard it referred to as a character Bible. So even if you are talking about the character currently in where they are right now, like she's 20 to the time she's 30, figure out where she was born, where she came from, what her zodiac sign, what her birthday is, and then even go so far as to create when she like dies. So you have like this Rolodex of index cards for the particular novel that you're working on, and you create like all date of birth, parents, and you just start giving her a backstory, and it helps kind of solidify who she is in the present.
The character persona, yeah. So, Will, I have a question for you. You've been quiet most of the time, but the very first film talk we did, you actually kind of based the characters in your film on people that you knew, kind of your own experience, someone and people that you knew. So the question that Zoe had, what's your answer for that, and how do you create new characters out of that?
Well, that was Clore that actually wrote that film. That was actually based loosely on his life. I'm not writer. I'd let you guys handle that writing, kind of stuff. But as a storyteller, because I love storytelling, it's really key for me, sort of like what Raquel was saying, to have that character Bible, sitting down to tell a story when I edit and produce a film, getting that background of all of the characters. And so with the 15 minutes, what we did with that story, a lot of times I asked Clore as a writer, I was like, okay, well, we're at this part in the story, but how did he get in jail? What's going to happen when he gets out of jail? What is all of this other stuff, so we understand how to react based on a directing standpoint. And then also it makes it easier for us to transition into like a television show, transition into a movie. People like, well, where did the idea come from? It's like, well, we talked about all of these things that happened while we were on set, even though they weren't necessarily happening in the film. We talked about them from, just a big multiverse kind of effect, that it really helped. And it helped the actors too. And the actors were asking, what's my motivation? Why am I 16 and pregnant? How long did I, when did I get pregnant? Am I gonna have the baby to term? Is this my first pregnancy? All of the things that we didn't talk about in the film to give people their drive for being that character. But I did have a quick question for the specialist that we have on here. And I don't want to say how hard it is, but what is the challenge between us and the Black community talking about mental health? Because I know, at least for around therapy, that it has been hard to have conversations in the Black community about the importance of getting therapy. So just a little bit on how are we dealing with mental health and at least talking about it in the Black community?
Well, since COVID, I know I have gotten an increase in clientele that have been African American. Also with the injustices coming out, and with George Floyd, all of that, I got a lot more increase with women looking for someone to talk to their kids. And with men, I have seen a bigger increase with really just as African Americans, they like, you know, I'm scared. I just don't want to say I'm scared out loud. So it's just the reality of, you know, having somebody that you can talk to that don't know you. And I do a lot of speaking. And I tell people a lot that outgrow your parents. You outgrow your parents. You outgrow the people that you grew up with. You outgrow your friends. You need to find somebody that do not know you and talk to them and get a true understanding of where you headed, say your journey, like these characters were saying in there, they all had a different story and they own uniqueness, as Janetta was saying. And so again, you are your own uniqueness, and we have for our community, we got to just break away from the actual mentality that, you know, you not supposed to talk to nobody, period. You're supposed to hold it in. What goes on in this house stays in this house. All that is, you know, really dead. And what's really the truth is what we were saying earlier. It's a lot of woke people. A lot of people are literally saying, I need to talk to somebody that's professional, that really going to hold my story and help me find the light. Not, you know, talk about me or negative, have some more negative stuff for me. So the reality of it is we just got to continue to encourage one another to go ahead and talk, go ahead and the one thing that really gets me is that African Americans, when we have medical insurance, we also have mental health insurance connected with that. And we need to use your benefits, you know. And the other thing is, if you go and you go to a therapist and you don't really vibe with them, they rubbed you the wrong way, you really didn't get what they were saying, go to another one. You can continue to go until you find somebody that you really are connecting with, because that's the only way therapy works, is that you really got to connect with that person that you're talking to. So if you don't have, you didn't get that connection on that first one, if anything made you feel some type of way, just go to another one. You already paying for the benefits. And the other thing that I like to tell African Americans, if you are a parent and you have your child on Medicaid, you want your child to get therapy, you get the therapy too, because Medicaid will pay for family therapy. So you can literally have your child as the client, and you can still see that therapist on a different day, because whatever you're going through is impacting that child in the first place. And that's real talk. So if you have medical insurance, check into the mental health insurance. And I'm so glad that so many actors and rappers or whatever are pushing for mental health insurance. I mean, pushing for mental health now and saying, you know, I get it. I'm not going to stop getting it. So that right there is helping us break the stigma of, you know, if you go, you crazy, because the reality of, if you don't go, you crazy. If you continue the same pattern that you're doing, you're crazy. That's because you're not going nowhere, and you continue generational curses. So let's break the curses and wake up. And how we do that is not talking to our parents and our people we grew up with that's doing the same thing that they've been doing. We talk to people that's higher than us. We talk to people that's actually trained in the field, and that's how we get help. And that's why I was saying from the jump, I wonder who that lady in the screenwriter, who she really was around, who was really connecting with her, who was her family. One of our models for therapy is Adam Adler. And his thing is about, you are as sick as whoever is around you. So if you got schizophrenia, it's because the people that you connecting yourself with is making you like that, is keeping you like that. So with that being said, what we want to do is just really make sure that and that's what I was saying too, she got this procrastination side, because she's already psychologically making herself sick every time she sit down and look at that sign. And you know, she adding it with the bottle. So we're already mentally put herself consciously in a place of sickness up front. So we're not really, you know, got that thought process right. And we needed the family members to come in and say, hey, remove this sign, remove this bottle. Just like she made the man remove that red shirt.
Great information, Glendora. Yamitra, how are you getting your clients through the issues that Glendora just talked about?
For one, I go through the process that really helped me. So I said that there's 5 keys to live past crazy. Number 1 is to be quiet, because there's just so much. You know, if you think about it, we talk to ourselves all day, like the writer. She has all these voices, and before I even get to hot tea in the morning, I've said I don't like my clothes, I don't like my hair, I don't like my weight. I don't need anybody to co-sign because I've already done the damage already. Like, I don't need no help from the outside world. I've got crazy down pat. So the first thing is just to be quiet. And then I share the importance of absolutely journaling. So for me, I have 2 journals. One is the book where I write all my frustrations and I didn't like this about me and I didn't like that. And I turn the page. And the rule is once I turn that page, I cannot for any reason flip back and read that. That is gone. It is over with and it's done. Now in my new book, because I have 2 in my other book, is I write what I like about myself for today. And I like to celebrate day ones and not one day. So today, day 1, JoJo, you washed your face and brushed your teeth. I'm proud of you. Today I washed my face. And then what you'll see is 30 days or 60 days later, you have a book of your accomplishments that you wrote to yourself. And that helps a lot. And so when we have all the crazy and sometimes self-imposed crazy, writing it down, finding a different way to look at it, definitely being quiet is one of them. And then I'm always a fan of mantras and quotes and things. And I have one, like when I'm feeling, I know my triggers. I'm a survivor of domestic violence and my abuser was the pastor. So the church was not my friend. I was like, how are you going to beat me and then go preach the word at the same time? And so knowing my triggers helps. And so when I'm having, and I'm usually positive Patty to 10,000. And so when I'm having those bad days, I have a mantra and I keep listen, let me tell you how real it is. I keep a mirror here on my desk. And so when I have those bad days, I open up the mirror and I say, I look good, I feel good, I am good. And I can't help but smile back at myself because I'm reinforcing something that I've had to say over and over. And it takes you to, as cliche as it may sound, and Ms. Divine can probably speak better to this than I can, it puts you in a happy place. It puts me to remember, Jojo, you're gonna be okay. This is going to happen. And so we just work through those 5 keys. And then the final one is you got to be willing. Like you have to be willing to do this. And I would tell people you can be dipped in fried and holy oil. They can lay hands on you and they can speak in all the tongues and do all the things. But if you're not willing to actually do the change, it's just absolutely not going to stick. So some part of you has got to be willing.
That's very interesting that you said the church is not your friend because your 5 keys are so biblically set, right?
I
So your first one is being still, or what some people say, like going into the silence, like silence and that noise, that outside, what sometimes people call the devil, right?
Yes.
I will get thee behind me. And then you talked about not looking back, which I also thought was very biblical, like the story of Lot, who when his wife turned around, and Markel and I just had a conversation about that before the film talk started tonight about Lot's wife who looks back, right? And you're saying, don't look back. After you write that down, turn the page.
Yes.
Don't look back, which kind of gave me the reference of the Old Testament versus the New Testament.
Yes.
And then you talked about affirmations, right? That you said, like, this is the way I feel today. This is the way I look. This is the way I feel. This is what my day is going to be like. And then you rounded it up with something else that was biblical with the whole will, right?
Yes.
And you were like, you have the will to do things a certain way. You have to act on it. So that I really like those 5 keys y'all mentioned.
Thank you. And I think we just have to be mindful that every day we give our words and our breath direction. And if you don't give your words and your breath direction every day, I found, and I will always say confessions and conversations with JoJo, I found that I tripped over myself all the time. Like I found myself dating the same person, marrying the same man, having the same job. And I just did not give my words and my breath any direction. And so now when I wake up, I had that intention. So I set those. And yeah, the church was not my friend. It is now, but during that process, no, it was not my friend.
You know, I truly believe that we have to speak our life into existence. That's why that sign procrastination bothered me, like from the beginning, like and so and you know, I wrote 2 books too, but one of my books is like a journal, and it's called Dear John. And I always like be like, what do this mean? Because I got the typewriter on there, and they be like, oh, did you break up? Yep. And you open it up and it says, time to love me. I need you to break up who you were before we even met, because we done with that person. And it's all about really and I tell them, I say, listen, the reality of it is we do not speak our desires. We're too busy running around saying I want. And we have to stop, because it was a scripture that we had to learn. It said, the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not. But we still walk around and we let our tongue say, I want, I want. And then we try to figure out, why am I in this cycle? It's because you're not speaking your life on purpose. You're not speaking about a desire. And so that, you know, so I'm so into what Yanita was saying, girl, yeah.
So Linda, real quick, tell them what's the name of your book, Linda Lee.
Yes, I have a brand new release entitled Damn, I Forgot to Love Her. And it is the story, absolutely, it's 5, and not 5, but it's just steps. I got it all over here in the bed because I'm working on a short film based on the book. And it's steps to recognizing the need for self-love. And it's my story. And although it's my story, I remember when I was writing the book, my son helped me edit the book. And I would go through the book and say, that's not grammatically correct. He said, no, but that's your voice. That's your voice. I'm gonna put it in all caps because that's what you said. You said, damn, 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 like that. And so don't play with it. So it is so serious. For years, I love like hell, but not for me, me. And so I was telling the young lady that did the video for the promo, and I was telling her it was like I'm at the end of the line, and I was looking around the line, kind of like I was doing when I was trying to vote today. I was looking around the end of the line, and I was loving everybody in that line except me. I was at the end of my own line. So it's damn, I forgot to love her. Yeah.
You're playing an extra in your own movie when you should have been the main character, right, Linda?
Bam.
We have a lot of people on the call: Stella, Kimberly, Rose Lee, Zoe, Teresa, Yante. Any of you guys want to, if you want to, you're not obligated, but any of you want to chime in? Do you have any questions? Do you want to contribute anything you'd like to say? Go ahead, Stella.
Okay. Hi. I loved the movie, and wow, for me, I didn't even think about mental health. I was just thinking about the author having a process of writing. And in fact, it reminded me, because a long time ago, I was listening to, what's the lady who wrote Harry Potter? J.K. Rowling. And she was talking about how she was in a train and all these characters would come and even speak to her. So for me, I was just thinking, no, it's just the process. But another thing I wanted to say to, I think it's Divine. I wanted to ask her, sometimes I feel like mental health sometimes is labeled because sometimes there's a book called Untethered Soul, where it was talking about, the guy was talking about how the mind, there's always a dialogue in the mind. And I think sometimes, and I'm not saying there's no mental health or anything, but I think sometimes it's things suppressed, like let's say anger, like men sometimes were told never to cry. So they have all these things inside and they have suppressed anger and all that. So if it goes in there and they don't really have somebody to talk to, could that also can they be misdiagnosed as being mentally ill? And maybe they just have things they haven't had a chance to say. Because I was watching this documentary where this guy was saying that his daughter passed away, and when they were in the hospital, because he knew he was a Black man, I'm going to get emotional, oh no, because he was a Black man, he just wanted to scream, but he knew that because he felt like because he was a Black man, he didn't want to intimidate anybody. So his mother-in-law just took him outside and they went somewhere and he just screamed out and cried. So the reason for that question is sometimes I feel like also mental health can be labeled, and I mean, unexpressed emotions or frustrations can be labeled, and then people are just being maybe diagnosed the wrong way and given medication and eventually get sick. So that's another thing I was going to speak on.
We have that a lot. And I see it a lot with our children. I see it a lot with our children, and they are diagnosed with ADHD real fast. And the reality of it, a lot of time, is really not that. It's really it's parenting. We have a lot with the kid maybe ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, where, we say yes, they say no. But the reality of it, ain't no medication for oppositional defiant disorder. What we really need is structure in the home. We need the parent to really become a parent and start to, put time in. Quality time is the actual medication. Quality time from the family. And so what happens, and like when I said earlier, since COVID and George Floyd, I get a lot of men now, Black men, and they come in and it's literally like, yeah, I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. And I have to be strong. I haven't even said this to my family, my wife, whatever. I kind of just don't know what to do. And, and I immediately let them know I see a king. I immediately let them know you are royal and you are human and everything you feel is real. You see? So it's not enough of us out here saying it's okay. And we still have a big pool of women that talks very demeaning to them. So it's still like, I go through a lot with women saying, you can't talk like that and be respected or be called a queen. This is not how a queen rule. And the reality of it is just misguided, guidance. But yeah, we do have a real big issue with calling people mental health issue, labeling them with mental health, when really it's just support. They need support. They need, African Americans for real, our men, their backs are up against the wall. They was made to be strong. They weren't made to be emotional. And so now when we see them being emotional, it's like, really, what is this? Or their question, can I even do this? And so the reality is that we just have to a lot more of us become more woke and become more accepting. And the women that are younger than me need to be mindful of their language, because, and their language is not encouraging, it's down-putting, and that's their tool that they use, with their tongue. So it's about maturity, and hopefully we can have more groups like Atlanta Black Chamber that bring professionals that really have stepped into the gate of like, I want to be awoke. I want to do different. I want to bring a better sense to my culture of how we act, how we get together, how we, escalate in life instead of continue to go down this cycle and this rabbit hole of nothing. So yeah, it's definitely something that we have to watch out for, and just not accept it. Just try and see if we can strengthen our families together as one. I really try and get families to start doing new traditions and let go of this old stuff so they can just have a mind shift change altogether.
I have a question for you, Mr. Vine and Stella. Thank you for mentioning the book, The Untethered Soul, which is one of my favorites, which brought me to the question is in a part of the book, it talks about inherited fears, and you were talking about the things that our families are going through. For me, and maybe, the stigma of mental health in the Black community and in the family and inside the church, and being misdiagnosed sometimes, like, and I'll just tell my quick story. I was petrified of flying. And I was in Austin, Texas, getting ready to get on the plane, opened up to that section in the book, Until the Soul. And it says, why are you afraid of this thing and you don't know where you got it from? And so when I thought about it, my mother was afraid of flying. She went to school to be a stewardess, but because her mother was afraid of flying and she saw one plane crash, she's like, you can't go because if you get on a plane, you will die. So here we are 3 and 4 generations into a fear that we don't even know why we have, because it's just been passed down unspokenly. And so now we have a fear of water, we have a fear of heights, we have a fear of flying, we have a fear of don't go here, don't go over there. And who the hell gave you those fears in the first place? And why are you not asking that question? Like, and when I got that, let me tell you, I went and had a chicken sandwich. I had a glass of wine on that plane. I lived my whole best life ever since then. And it was that simple. And here I was thinking, okay, Jojo, you're crazy. You're afraid of everything. No, somebody gave me that fear and it was not mine to carry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you think, and so Ms. Devine, the question was, do you think that a lot of time with the misdiagnosis that we're carrying things that just don't belong to us and we don't even know why we have them?
I have helped parents acknowledge that they passing on fears to their kids. You know, so we definitely do that. And again, it's all a part of the generational curse. And this is why I say you have to get to a point where you stop going back telling your parents everything that's going on with you at this age. This is why I say you got to stop telling them people that you grew up with. You got to stop telling them friends. It's over. That's game over. They're not where you at. And the other major part, which she was calling out earlier, Akita was calling out earlier about you and all your 5 steps was so biblical. That's the other part, you know. People walk around and they say, okay, well, I'm scared of this, or I got this issue, but then at the same time, I love God. So I say, wait a minute. You can't do both of these. We're gonna either be fearless because of God, or we're gonna go ahead and play with the devil. But pick one so you can get your mind right. So, you know, that's a really big part of it too. You know, what rule, spiritual rule, are you actually living by? And then a lot of times you'll see you can't go by what you actually was raised by. You have to start developing your own based on your understanding and your experiences. And then you bring your family together, who you're living with. That's the family, not who you used to live with. And you bring them and y'all start to determine what y'all gonna do as far as to adhere to who y'all believe in. So it's about really reteaching our community on how to actually be a family. A lot of us don't know how to blend a family. A lot of us don't know how to actually be in a family atmosphere. And a lot of us have muddies and big mamas that's not here no more. So we just kind of just out here, you know, and that's and you know, and I you know, I'm glad that you made it out of your journey of domestic violence. But you know, at the same time, I feel like that's just part of us not knowing how to be in a relationship. Nobody teaching us how to be in a relationship, and nobody we're not having the role models to learn from about how to be in a relationship. But that is how we learn to speak with the desires of our heart, what we truly are purposefully make us feel good. What is that joy that's inside of us? We can't know that until we go through these trials and tribulations.
Okay, I'm sorry. Glendora and Yamitra, the talent that we have in this Atlanta Black Chambers, it never ceases to blow my mind. I'm not just the chair of the Arts and Entertainment Committee. I also wear a semi-operations support hat. So I know, I see who's coming and see who's going, from the women think tank to, that's what I connected with Yamitra, from, you know, just Glendora, you just posting yourself around. I had no idea. I feel like Kanye West, because I'm about to say, Akita, I'm gonna let you have a mic in a minute. But one of the things that I really enjoy about virtual film talks is a couple of things. I won't watch the trailer before I won't try to watch the movie before. I want to experience it with everyone. We go into this blindly. Maybe SA knew, maybe Will knew, but you coming in as a mental health professional, and you too, Yamitra, and being able to find these topics, these underlying waves and things that our communities need to talk about. That's why I say artists can get away with murder. What you can't say, we can mime, we can sing, we can do, we can act, we can kill white people on Lovecraft Country with imaginable animals. So I really, just a real quick recap. This is scheduled until 9. We try to kind of let you guys leave around 8:45. But the first virtual film talks we did was called 15 Minutes. It was about the phone call that a prisoner makes to his family. We had the writer on, we had the producer on, and then we had Tracy Keith Max from the Chamber, and a couple of other incarcerated brothers who served time for various charges and were able to speak about reentry citizens, how not to hold what they did in the past against them, how important that 15-minute phone call was. And again, it was amazing. The second one we did was called Cut My Hair Barber. And it was about a little boy who discovered his father later in life, and his father was still trying to deny him, actually said the word abortion to his little son's face. And we didn't just have the writer on it, we had an actor from it, and then we had 2 men who started foundations within the city of Atlanta called Fathers First and About a Father. So what you can't say in public, artists can get away with. And this conversation led by Glendora and Yamitra, you guys have really taken this to another level. I know as Black people and being of various religious backgrounds and affiliation, we skirt across issues of spirituality. We're afraid to kind of talk about our energy and what kind of puts us where we are, but there's a really, really loud conversation that is happening about that, right now. And then just for you to be so bold and mention it, and then Yamitra, you come back and save it, and I'm so glad that we have been given the green light to do what we need to do with this arts and entertainment community. We'll continue to have talks like this. I'm not going to end it. I'm just going to stop. And then I'm going to do another call for Melvin. If you are on the line and you want to speak to the art and entertainment community, unmute your mic or forever hold your peace.
Can you see me somewhere? I'm trying to find myself.
I see you.
Okay. So this is some powerful stuff. I'm sitting here like, okay, we don't have a book club, but virtual film talks. But we don't do books, we do films, because that's, we some next level. Y'all know how we do it. And that's what I'm like, wow, this is like the virtual film talks book club. This is amazing. So, hey, I'm done. Y'all are amazing. I'm just glad to say, hey, look at us. Look what we're doing. We're so fly. So thank all of you. This is amazing.
Thank you, Melvin. Essay. So what you've given us tonight, this film, Telling Stories, has definitely sparked a whole lot of conversation and people being able to talk about stuff that's taboo to talk about, right? Things that it seems like even our specialists are dealing with, not just with their clients, of course, in their profession, but in their own lives. So I want to say thank you so much for allowing us to share your creative work like this. And so my question is, what is your next project? You're muted.
Oh man, that happens to me all day long. Anyway, my next project is called Those Left Behind. It's going to discuss mental illness as well. So basically, the log line for it is a woman who struggles with bipolar gets to see, oh gosh, I can't remember the log line. But basically, a woman with bipolar who actually commits suicide gets to see the damage left behind with the people who are left behind. And so she gets to argue with her higher power to undo her decision. So that is the next short film I'm working on.
And clearly another one that delves in mental health, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. That
So
would be, yes.
is this a mental health series that you're doing with your films, or what is the business that you're evolving into?
The business I'm evolving into is actually, it's not a mental health series. That's just me being on the creative side of things. But my business the second business that I'm starting underneath SAB Entertainment is called SAB Lens. And so it is going to help people who want to become filmmakers. Let's say you have a story idea, but you don't know how to write it. Then you can come to me and we can write it. Oh, I've written it, but I don't know how to produce it. Okay, you can come to me and I can produce it. Also to help actors with their demo reels and headshots. In addition to helping small businesses with their social media creation.
And as Melvin says all the time, that the Atlanta Black Chambers is set up to make sure that people are not just networking, but they're connecting and actually doing business with each other moving forward. We have lots of people on the call tonight who are doing just that. So it'd be awesome if you all could connect in some way. Will, Raquel, who else do we have in here? Linda, even Kim, who I want to introduce to you guys. You're going to hear from in just a second. She's doing a great event every year called Biz Savvy. But if you all can just drop your contact information in the chat, you as well, SA, and that way you all will have an opportunity to network and maybe come up with something that you can do together. I'm sure that Melvin would love that.
Hey, Akita, Glendora had a quick question for me or essay. You were asking about what type of equipment is needed to create a short story like this. I would say, you need a camera and a computer to edit. The equipment piece can be as extravagant as you need it or as simple. I think the biggest thing is just a story. I think if you got a good story, you can shoot it with your iPhone, with your camera phone, and edit it right on your phone. But
Yep.
if you got some ideas or something, we would, I know SA would, we would definitely love to talk to you about how you can get that idea completed.
My husband is into it, so he is in the background like, ask him this, ask me yourself. So,
I put my email in there. Tell him to email me or something like that.
okay.
Quick
All
rundown
right.
of what he can start with at least.
And we've heard from everybody, like, for them to touch on some form of the expertise, but we have not heard from Kimberly Fennell yet tonight. So Kim, can you unmute and introduce yourself and let people know what you're doing?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kimberly Fennell. I am a member of the Atlanta Black Chambers and the Arts and Entertainment Committee. I also am the founder of Entertainment Business Support, which provides administrative support to creatives and independent artists. And I am the founder of Biz Savvy Artist, which provides entrepreneurship training to independent and emerging artists as well as creative professionals. And every year we have, for the last 7 years, produced Biz Savvy Artist Academy, which is a one-day event where we provide workshops offering business training in a fun and engaging way for creatives. We talk about marketing, we talk about finance, building your team, intellectual property, understanding contracts and agreements. So everything that artists and creative professionals need to have a successful business. We also incorporate an expo where we connect you with tools and resources that you can utilize in your business. We do keynote presentations and tons of networking. The next Biz Savvy Artist Academy is going to take place in August, August 21st, 2021. It's right now we're planning for it to be a hybrid event because we don't know what's happening yet. So we're strategizing to have it live and in person if we can. That's always our preference. But we also have some virtual options in the works as well in case we need to do that as well. So we're really excited. The website, if you want more information, is bsaacademy.com. It's B as in boy, S as in Sam, A as in Apple, academy.com.
And we also have Rose Lee on, who is like our chamber photographer. And even though you didn't hear from her tonight, Rose, if you can drop your information in the chat as well, because she actually does produce visual graphics. She does great photography, and she's also looking at expanding her company to do even more than that. So Rose, if you can, go ahead and drop yours. And I see in the chat that Teresa Lewis has put in her information. Teresa, because we haven't heard from you tonight, can you just chime in and let us know like what it is that you do in entertainment so that the people on the line can have an idea of how they can connect with you? Teresa? Well, maybe we get it later. Raquel, do you want to say anything before we leave tonight?
Yes. So before we wrap up, I want to thank everyone for your participation. Akita, thank you so much for moderating like a boss, like you always do. S.A. Brown, thank you so much for birthing your child and allowing the rest of the world to experience this. Glendora and Yamitra, I'm going to put you guys into one big lovely ball. Thank you so much for coming in and showing us what we do at the chamber and what it looks like and how it's time for us to be really honest, you know, with ourselves. Melvin, thank you for your presence. Will, thank you for co-chairing. Linda, Stella, iPhone, and everyone else out there, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And what I do want to say in closing is that our very last Virtual Film Talks Volume 4 is going to be a special edition. We're going to talk about Lovecraft. If you have not been watching Lovecraft, I suggest you try to catch up on it. There are some podcasts about it. There are Facebook communities that are out there that are talking about it. Lovecraft is it's horror. So if you're chicken, you probably will never see this. It's produced by and directed by Misha Green, who also did Underground. So Journey Smollett is in this movie, as well as the very handsome Jonathan Morgan. He's in here as well. They have hidden historical Easter eggs. Like there's an image of Emmett Till somewhere that you don't realize it's him until you back into it. Everyone who's watching it from an intellectual level is taking notes. It touches on some very current things that are going on in the African-American community about buying houses in white neighborhoods and how they treat you and so on and so forth. There's a very great chance that we're going to have some special guests, some people who were in the movie, some people who were behind the scenes, and one or two extras. So we're excited. So that's 11/10/2020, and it's Let's Talk About Lovecraft. Let's talk about how it is giving us it. The last episode, I don't know if you guys saw it, spoiler alert, it totally did a fictitious representation of the burning of Tulsa. So they touch on all of these different aspects. So if you can just watch it in the daytime on a Saturday morning with your kids outside, if you're really scared. I'm super excited about that.
Thank you, Raquel. Again, thank you everyone for being here tonight and for everyone who played full out. Everyone, even Teresa, by the way, she said she's having audio issues and that's why she couldn't come off mute. But everyone here tonight played full out, and it seems like you all were very open and transparent about what's going on, how you feel, not just about the film, but mental health. And so we really appreciate it. To you, Sarah, S.A., thank you so much again for sharing your creative work with us and for letting us dissect it, tearing it apart, giving our own perspectives of it, even questioning your own sanity and your mental health and why you're so able to create an experience like this for us. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.